What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. We have some very interesting news coming out linking the Toronto Raptors' Og Anunoby, who has been in the rumor mill for about a week now. We've been hearing all sorts of rumors about him potentially wanting out, and the New York Knicks as well, and what the New York Knicks may be willing to offer the Toronto Raptors in return for Og Anunoby. I am also going to be discussing later in this video what the direction the Raptors may go in regarding what happens in these next 7 games. There's a report about that as well. So if you're ready to watch this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you wish to hit the subscribe button as well, we're super close to 4,000 subscribers. That would be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on my channel, and the shout out for today's video, I apologize, I cannot read all these letters. I'm just going to say GG. Thank you so much for supporting this channel to your likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. Now, this was being reported by NBA Central. The Knicks checked in on Og Anunoby and were comfortable offering multiple first-round picks. And the article went on to state, as SNY reported, the Knicks also checked in with Toronto about Og Anunoby. Ian Bagley reported this was before New York reeled off 8 straight wins in December, but given Toronto's place in the standings, Anunoby could be available at the deadline, so that is something to monitor. Also worth noting in the conversation about Anunoby prior to the winning streak, New York was comfortable offering multiple first-round picks for Anunoby. I don't think these talks were at an advanced stage at that point, but all of the above strongly suggests that the team's decision makers may have so far focused on improving the roster for at the February 9th trade deadline. Now, obviously, this is huge news because we got some potential rumors. I don't know how true those rumors are a couple of days ago, and I broke it down that potentially Og Anunoby could want out of Toronto, and we know the New York Knicks have a lot of first-round picks. Now, of course, the Raptors would ideally want starting point at the very least. If you are looking to trade Og Anunoby, should be 2 first-round picks, and the New York Knicks have multiple first-round picks as well. But let's take a look at the roster here in terms of what the Knicks could offer the Toronto Raptors. Now, taking a look at the New York's roster and also their salaries as well, Og Anunoby is making approximately $18 million. So I know a lot of people are going to suggest throwing Evan Fournier in there. The Raptors are clearly not taking that. You obviously have to include a little bit more in order to entice the Toronto Raptors. And honestly speaking, as a Raptors fan, I'm looking at someone like an Emmanuel quickly. Obviously, that $2 million is clearly not enough, so you will have to throw in a little bit more. But I mean this in the most respectful way to New York Knicks fan. If you're watching this video, there isn't a lot outside of Obi Toppin. And let's be honest, outside of quickly Obi Toppin, there's not a lot in terms of prospects that you could offer the Toronto Raptors. And there's no way in hell that the New York Knicks are trading RJ Barrett, because if you're trading for Og Anunoby, you want to build around guys like RJ Barrett. You want to build around guys. I know it sounds weird to say this considering the season he had last year, but Julius Randle. So those 2 guys are probably out of the picture, and obviously Jalen Brunson as well. So having Og Anunoby there is going to be very interesting. But in terms of player personnel, I'm going to be honest, there isn't a lot. And even Obi Toppin, like, he's a great player, but he's 1 year younger than Og Anunoby. And also, you take into consideration, you're going to have to pay him sooner rather than later as well. So the whole point of the Toronto Raptors trading Og Anunoby, if they do, is so they can have some contracts that are very flexible, that are under contract. So again, the salaries, it makes it a little bit challenging. I know people are going to suggest Mitchell Robinson, Derrick Rose. The Raptors are not taking those players, even if the New York Knicks were to offer multiple picks. Now, let's take a look at the New York Knicks first-round picks, because they have quite a few in the next several years. Now, as you see there, the New York Knicks have an insane amount of first-round picks, not only in the future, but this season alone. They have their own. They also have Washington's, they have Dallas Mavericks, and the Detroit Pistons as well. Now, I will say about the Detroit Pistons once before people are quick to suggest we should go for that first-round pick, there has to be some sort of protection, I'm assuming, on that Pistons first-round pick. The Pistons aren't likely to give up first-round picks just like that. And again, you go into the next several years, like you look at the New York Knicks, it's honestly insane the amount of picks they have, the first-round picks. Now, I will state one thing in order of what the Raptors may look for in Og Anunoby has already been stated. If they look to trade guys like OG or Pascal, they definitely want 2 players, 2 really good players, 2 young players, and some picks as well. Now, I will state one thing. It's obviously great to have a lot of first-round picks in return, but especially like how many the New York Knicks have this season. They have 4 the upcoming draft. They have 4 first-round picks. And you're trading, even let's say if you trade 2 of those, you need to create some sort of roster space. What you don't want to do, even if the Raptors do decide to rebuild or retool, what you don't want to do is have 2-3 rookies again. I want to remind you, the Raptors have their own first-round pick this year as well. So you trade for 2 first-round picks this year. I'm not going to complain about that. But ultimately, you're going to have 3 rookies come in, possibly 4, depending on the second-round draft pick as well. So if you're the Raptors, if you're any organization out there, even if you're rebuilding, whether you're retooling, rebuilding, it makes it very challenging to develop all your players, especially if you have 4 young guys come onto your roster as well. So first round picks sound great, guys, but let's be honest. If you're trading OG to the New York Knicks, who I believe are currently 6th in the Eastern, 6th or 7th in the Eastern Conference, Og Anunoby is going to make them that much better. And obviously the New York Knicks are going to lock him in into the long term. He does have a contract up until next season, and then they can sign him. So take that into consideration. You're trading future first-round picks, which is great, but the New York Knicks will be a really good team. Og Anunoby adds wins to that team. So essentially, those first-round picks may end up being mid-20s, even if it's 21st. Like, that's not a great pick, let's be honest, for Og Anunoby. So that's where I can understand where the Raptors are talking about when they want some young, good players. Like, you want someone, I know that it's very unrealistic and the 76ers would unlikely do this, but if I'm the Raptors, like if you're trading Og Anunoby, I want someone like a Tyrese Maxey. Like, that's a sure thing. That's the thing with young players. You know they're going to be a sure thing, or they have that potential there. The thing with first-round picks is you can get them, and what if they turn out to be bust? So that's the thing. So that's the only thing. Even though the Raptors have a great record of drafting a lot of good guys in first rounds, and particularly late in first rounds as well, I don't know, guys. I don't know how I feel about this, but let's talk about the next rumor regarding the Raptors' decision-making at the NBA trade deadline. Now, shout out to Raptors Update on Instagram. They provided this update, which was Brian Windhorst reporting. Raptors have kind of indicated they're going to wait until the last week before the trade deadline before they decide which direction they're going to go in. Now, this should not come as a surprise because although a lot of fans, including myself, want the Raptors to honestly tank at this moment, it's not an easy decision to move off of guys. Again, potentially move off of guys like Fred VanVleet, like Og Anunoby, maybe even Gary Trent Jr. So these aren't simple decisions, just as simple as flipping them. You do need to consider the future as well and the value that these kind of guys bring to the team. Like Og Anunoby is a player you can plug in on any team. Gary Trent Jr. has an asset that any team would want around the NBA. Scoring is an asset in this league, and especially three-point shooting as well. And the Raptors need abundance of that because they suck. Let's be honest, they suck at three-point shooting. So obviously guys like Gary and OG are very valuable. And Fred VanVleet, although he's having a struggling season, he can be one of those players. Again, it all depends on what the Raptors decide to do. But he may not be great in terms of a rebuilding team, but Fred VanVleet is a good complementary player if you're going to aim to make a deep playoff run. So that's the thing with all of those guys. Like, they all provide something really nice. So it's not as simple as just stating, well, we should rebuild, retool, we should do this as well. But taking a look at these standings here, this is a big indication of what the Raptors could do in the next week or so. Now, currently the Raptors sit about 2 spots outside of the play-in, but Masai Ujiri has gone on to state that he's not a big fan of play-in. So understandably so, the Raptors are on, I believe, a 7-game road trip here. They did win a huge win against the Sacramento Kings last night. And depending on where the next few games go, like if the Raptors do go on a big winning streak, let's say 5 games here, all of a sudden they're 500 and look, 27 wins puts them probably, realistically speaking, at the 8th or 9th spot. And the Raptors do have about 33 games remaining. They have one of the easiest schedules in the entire NBA. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do go on a winning streak. But the thing with the Raptors is if they go the other way, if they lose, let's say even 3 or 4 more games, now all of a sudden the Raptors are about 23, 24 wins and 31 losses for the season. Is there really any point at that point for the Raptors to try and build what this roster has? Not really. I think they definitely would need to retool or rebuild at that point. And honestly, like even looking at the standings now, guys, I'm going to be honest, it doesn't look very attractive. But if there's one team out there that will absolutely not give up, it's the Toronto Raptors. And again, these decisions aren't easy. I will state one thing. Let's talk about rebuilding really quickly here just for a minute. Let's say you decide to trade away everyone and you build around Scottie Barnes. The Raptors have a good building block. Like Scottie Barnes is amazing. Og Anunoby is amazing. Gary Trent could be part of that as well, depending on what he wants and how much money the Raptors are willing to pay him. But take into consideration, Scottie Barnes at the current moment is 21 years old. And let's say the Raptors draft someone next year. That player is also going to take 3 to 4 years to become a really good player. But in case that player turns out to be a bust or turns out to be a decent player and not one we may expect, then all of a sudden you're waiting another season. Now that puts Scottie Barnes at 22, 23 years old. And that next player may take a little bit longer. Again, I'm not stating that rebuilding could be a failure for the Raptors. The Raptors have actually never gotten the chance to rebuild under Masai Ujiri. So it could definitely be very interesting to see because he will get to build this team from the very bottom, like scratch. He's got Scotty Barnes, he's got OG, he's got Christian Koloko, Precious Achiuwa. So yes, those are good building blocks, but also take into consideration that if one or two of those first-round picks in the next season or two ends up being bust, and all of a sudden Scotty Barnes is not all of a sudden 23, 24 years old, and you're waiting another 3-4 seasons for those players to blossom, at which point you have to question, does Scotty Barnes at 25, 26 years old all of a sudden become frustrated with the Raptors' lack of success? He is someone, let's not forget, he's someone who is very competitive and he loves to win. So that's all I'll say, guys. I know, and then by the time that happens, Og Anunoby is going to be much older as well. So maybe he looks for, he looks for contending teams to go to as well. So that's what I'll say about that, guys. There's no absolute guarantee that rebuilding a team and tearing it all down guarantees anything. That's all I'll say. Guys like Pascal don't come around every day. So that's all I got to say regarding that. But very interesting news about OG. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. What do you think the Raptors could want from the New York Knicks? If honestly, if you're trading Og Anunoby, what would you want in a return? How many first-round picks would you want? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, I do have a trivia question for you today. And this one is tributed to late Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace, Kobe. Kobe Bryant had 81 points versus the Raptors. Which team was his second highest scoring game against? Was it A, Portland? Was it B, Dallas? Was it C, New York? Or was it D, Boston? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. So that will be it for today's video. If you guys are still watching, make sure to give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button as well. And that will be it for today's video. So thank you so much for watching this video. And I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.